Trinidad and Tobago, history is made. History is made. Michelle Lee IE takes the gold medal.
Another chapter in the history of Afghanistan's cricket is written. Beat the Windies here by 7 wickets.
Pogba! For France and possibly now the world.
Zarnell Hughes has been disqualified.
You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life.
I'm not proud of what's happened. You know, it's not within the spirit of the game.
Here goes Morris to win it for Sour North. Oh, what's that?
I don't know what to fix West Indies' problem. I'm not interested in fixing their problem.
Just over 24 hours after his reassignment, Darrell Smith is fired.
After 51 shows this year, it all comes down to our final delivery for 2018 on The Morning Shot. Hello and welcome. Wherever you're watching from, I'm Ryan Bechu. This is a special edition of the show where we'll try to fit all the highlights and lowlights of the past year into just 2 hours. It's kind of like this shoes I'm wearing. I fight to get my feet in it every morning, but I know deep down inside it can't really fit. Now, we know it all can't fit, so we've picked out some of the most spectacular moments of the year, along with some of the sad ones, especially when it comes to West Indies cricket. And the result is we've put together a quite wonderful show for you. I think it's so wonderful, you won't miss Himaramki soon one little bit. You're stuck with me for the next 2 hours, but it's going to be fun. Strap in. We begin in the wild, wild West Indies.
That's it. India's biggest ever win against the Windies.
The circus that is West Indies cricket continued to go round and round in circles this year, and a few more clowns jumped onto the merry-go-round. We qualified for the 2019 Cricket World Cup, yes. However, at the World Cup qualifiers, we couldn't beat Afghanistan, and then later in the year, we couldn't beat Bangladesh. So a plummet from the summit continued at rocket speed this year. Here to help us analyze the year in West Indies cricket, we've got former TNT youth player and also cricket commentator and analyst Colin Murray. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much, Colin, for being on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Pleasure, Aaron.
First question, if you had to summarize West Indies cricket, one word for 2018, what would it be?
One word. It's difficult in one word, but I can be very, very naughty with the one word, but let's just say not very good at all. It's been very disappointing.
We did qualify for the World Cup, but everything around that, after that, before that, was quite miserable.
Yeah, qualification for the World Cup, I think, was the highlight of the year. But you know, that was expected. When you look at the composition of the teams that took part in that quality, I mean, West Indies, we had no right to be there in the first place. But be that as it may, you looked at some of the teams; they were awful. But yet, we got into the final, couldn't beat Afghanistan.
Couldn't beat Afghanistan
actually,
before.
well, I was about to say that we lost to them in a warm-up game. We lost to them. I mean, it was really, really bad. But you know, as you rightly said, we just seem to be going down and down. And the unfortunate thing is, we are not grooming our young players. There seems to be no real development plan. Outside of Hetmeyer, you're looking around and you're seeing the same old faces. Hope has come good. Chase
Thomas looks okay.
He's another one that looks bright for the future. But you know, I would love to see more of the youngsters given the opportunity. We had a West Indies B team playing in the 50-over tournament. We had the CCC. Now, I'm not saying just take all of them and dump them in, but you've got to take a few of them and develop them, and you've got to put them in. You've got to do away now with some of the older heads, and I'm using the word older heads, but there are some guys 25 and 26 that have been playing for 4 years but are not consistent enough. So my point is, how long do you continue going with them? Because we're going to lose anyway. So we may as well throw in some youngsters and say, you know what, there's a 4-year plan. In 4 years' time, West Indies cricket needs to be there. And we're going to go with these, identify these few youngsters and go with them. And you have the basis of hope, maybe Hetmeyer. God will help us with Darren Bravo, that he will get back to some sort of... So you've got the nucleus of a decent team. O'Shane Thomas is one who is coming through. I'm not seeing... What I would love to see is one or two. I would love to see a leggy and maybe a good left-arm spinner coming through. Because you look at what has happened in the CPL, for example, and in the CPL, the majority of the wicket takers were the leg spinners. Unfortunately, they were all from overseas. So, you know, you've got to analyze it. And what I don't think is happening too much right now in West Indies cricket, especially with the selectors, they seem to be a little bit blinkered. They've got a 22 or 24, and they say that's it. And the 22 and 24 that they have, you've got a handful of them that is producing.
So there's a few people that aren't changing. The chairman of selectors is still there. Most of the core of the administration is still there. But then there are a few people that are out. So West Indies Cricket lost its coach this year. Stuart Lowe left. It also lost Dwayne Bravo. Bravo hasn't played for quite a while, but now it's confirmed he's no longer, Dwayne Bravo is no longer going to be playing West Indies cricket. Those two exits, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know, Bravo was always on the cards. Stuart Lowe was a little bit of a surprise. But, you know, it's a little bit strange that you're going to leave a national team to go and coach a county team. Is it for the money? Was he not happy with the West Indies setup? I haven't heard him come out and say, well, look, I wasn't happy with this or I wasn't happy with that. But it's passing strange. But he's not the first coach to resign in the last year or so. When I say in the last couple of years. So what is happening? Why aren't we able to keep our coaches? Is it a situation that they're not getting along with the selectors? Remember Phil Simmons had a real beef with the selectors at the time. Who was the chairman of the selectors? Courtney Brown. Now Stuart Lowe is gone. Who is the chairman of the selectors? Courtney Brown. The team, I look back at West Indies cricket over the year. We played 10 test matches. We won 3, all 3 at home. 2 to Bangladesh, 1 to Sri Lanka. We lost in New Zealand, we lost in India, we lost in Bangladesh, okay? We lost 10 T20 games.
Wow.
Right? And won 1. This is before the one yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's 2 now. The ODIs, similar situation. We got beat, we won 3 ODIs, lost 7. So what is the problem? Is it the players are not good enough? How are they able to win 1 game but not consistent enough? You know, and again, I go back to things have changed in West Indies cricket, but the chairman of selectors is still there. And my question is, he's not giving enough young people a chance. And that's our future. Our future has to be going now. We've got to look at I looked at the Windies B team, for example, in the Super 50 tournament that was here in Trinidad. And there are a few young players that you could see some talent in them. But where are they now? What has happened since that 50-over tournament? They've gone back to their country probably, and some of them must be just waiting to enjoy Christmas. You know, and my point is, we have to keep developing our players, and right now I'm not seeing it happening.
We just made it into the World Cup. We're going to talk a little bit about West Indies women's cricket now, but that doesn't really say much if that's the highlight of the year on the men's front. On the women's front, though, the Windies women surrendered their Women's World T20 title in November to Australia. In many ways, that team too looked like a shadow of its former self that won the world title 2 years ago. Everything this year in West Indies women's cricket built up to that moment in November. We got to the semis, but we were beaten by the Aussies. A member of the team helped us recap this year in women's cricket. In fact, she joins us right now via Skype. Let's dial in Marissa Aguilera. Marissa, welcome to the show.
I think that this year for the West Indies women's cricket team, it has been basically a roller coaster ride for us. Some ups and downs. We had a lot of challenges, but as a great team, we always find a way to pull through. I believe at the beginning of the year, we had New Zealand. We faced against one of a very strong team, tough opponent, and we lost all the games in New Zealand. And I think that time in particular, it was a really testing ground for us, knowing that we know to a fact how much we wanted to win in New Zealand, but somehow we just could not have crossed the barrier. And I really think that it was somehow of a testing for us in lines of just coming back from the in 2017 the World Cup, and which we were pretty much defeated and really didn't perform the way we wanted to. So we had South Africa series where for us was really disappointed because we truly believe that we could have won the series, but I think it was a good test for us to see where we were as a team because of not playing cricket for a long period of time because we just had New Zealand in the new year, and then we had the camps and well the regional tournaments, and then we played against South Africa, which was leading up to the World Cup. So it was a bit disappointed in South Africa series. We had some I must commend Hayley Matthews for getting her first century, and she showed great progress and even awarded the vice captain for the World T20 team. So this entire year was a build up to the World T20, which I think was great for the West Indies team in lines of how we looked on the field. For me, I believe that we were the best fielding team for the tournament, but unfortunately, what we really wanted to accomplish to retain our title, we did not do that. But we proved to ourselves that once we work hard and stick together as a team, nothing is impossible.
Thank you very much, Marissa. She's never a negative one, is she? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Colin Murray is back as we talk TKR's rise in the CPL, with Red Force's fall from Grace and regional cricket. Next.
Defending champions and really reinforcing their quality as a top-class T20 side.
You know, if it's one thing, since the inception of the Caribbean Premier League, if we can't depend on West Indies cricket, men or women, the Trinbago Knight Riders team has always managed to make Trinidad and Tobago fans cheer. And it was another year of cheer for Dwayne Bravo and his team. They won their third title and second straight in 2 years. As you would imagine, Dwayne Bravo would have been dancing well into the night. That TKR performance in this year's CPL really cemented why they are the best team in the CPL.
Oh, no doubt. Before the tournament started, I had predicted that they would win the tournament. As a matter of fact, I thought Talawas would have given them the hardest sort of fight. So I predicted a TKR Talawas final. Unfortunately, Talawas didn't get in. And I have my reasons as well why they didn't get in. But TKR, superb. There's an energy about the TKR that Bravo brings to the team. You could also see the players playing for him. They seem to love playing for Dwayne Bravo. And they're a well-balanced team as well. And he seems to be able to pull some of the overseas players that perform. Ali Khan.
The real creme de la creme.
Who is Ali Khan? Who was Ali? The leggy, Fawad Ahmad.
Yeah.
Who was that guy? You know, a 36-year-old.
And from the CPL, they've managed to go on to enjoy pretty good careers outside.
That's right. So, you know, and then the crowds have been absolutely superb. I mean, at the Oval, when we went up to Brian Lara, I think the crowd, it's the one thing you really have to say now that the Trinis enjoy in terms of the team is winning, the crowd is completely behind them. They love they're not only the local players, they love the overseas players as well. So, you know, it's everything right about CPL. And, you know, I wish the West Indies board learns a little bit about how the CPL goes about talking about the players, advertising the players, making the public know who is Ali Khan, who is Brendan McCullum, what has he done? And I think that's what we need to do with our players. We need to promote our players a little bit more. But, you know, it's not the case. But you're right, TKR, super. They're going to come again next year. And I tell you what, Bravo is not going to be happy with just winning 3. He's going, bet your life, they're going for a beaver next year. They're going to look at the team, they're going to twist and they're going to turn, they may chop a player or two, bring in another player, but they are going to be another powerhouse come next year.
Okay, Colin, so the Trinbago Knight Riders rode to glory once again in the CPL. On the domestic front, though, where foreign stars don't seem to encircle the regional 4-day cricket and one-day cricket. The TNT Red Force team really struggled this season. Well, last season into this 4-day season, they finished bottom of the table, and then in the Super 50 Cup, what seemed to be an extremely strong team only made it to the semis.
Yeah, let's deal with the Super 50. I was very disappointed with the Super 50 performance. Why? I just don't know. When you've got the kind of talent we had, surely that was a team that could have basically closed their eyes and win the tournament. So you've got to analyze, was it off the field? Were they not a happy bunch? Because you've got to have, your players have got to be happy. I mean, they've got to be motivated, they've got to be happy. And I know for a fact that those guys, the Narines, the Pollards, the Bravos, they love to play for Trinidad and Tobago. They love to represent the country. And they want to win. Not only they want to win, I think regionally, because they are superstars, the region, it's like favorites. You don't want the favorites to win. And I think because of that, these guys really give all. So I question what went wrong with the team. How could a team of that talent perform so badly in a semi-final? Were they not mentally ready for the semi-final? Were they not motivated? And that's one thing I would love the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board to be more transparent on. It's just like going to the Red Force in the 4-day tournament. When you look at that's a talented team. You look through the names, and again, we started this season badly, but you look at the names and the lineup, they're a talented team. So why, how could we scramble to make 200 runs? We finished 84 points behind Guyana last year. 84 points.
That was last year.
Yeah, we ended up, well, the 2017-2018 season. We ended up with 82 points, and Guyana ended up with 166 points. We could have played a whole round again and not catch them.
Win, yeah.
So what went wrong? I begged the cricket board, hey, tell us what's the problem. Ramdin finished third in the averages with 61, 3 centuries. Imran Khan got 48 wickets, 2 less than Purmal, who got 50. Purmal is the leading wicket taker. So you have 2 of your players in the top 3 in batting and the second leading wicket taker, and we finished dead last. And nobody carries out an investigation and tells the public, because you owe it to the public. This is not the cricket board. This is not a thing named the cricket board. This is the Trinidad and Tobago cricket board. I am from Trinidad and Tobago. You are from Trinidad and Tobago. You want an explanation. You want to know we finished last. Why we finished last? Playing for Trinidad and Tobago. And nobody seems to care anymore, and it's sad.
Colin Murray, thank you very much for your time. Cricket, lousy cricket. When will it stop breaking my heart? That's the final delivery on cricket this year. When we come back, France conquers the world, but when next can we expect Trinidad and Tobago football team at a World Cup? The final delivery on the Morning Shot continues next.
France are the champions of the world.
Bonjour, back to the Morning Shot's final delivery for 2018, and when it comes to football, France conquered the world for the second time in 20 years. During the middle months of the year, football fever gripped the globe as 32 nations rumbled in Russia to win the FIFA World Cup. In the end, it was the second youngest team in the tournament to top the world. TNT wasn't there, but we reviewed the tournament with the help of a man who is trying to take us there next 4 years.
Here is the planet's ultimate game. The final of the 21st Football World Cup.
Flicked in by Griezmann and flicked on! And France take the lead in the World Cup final!
France winning the World Cup, I probably wouldn't have predicted it before. I think because I went with my heart and not my head. But I think then in looking at the World Cup, I think it was well deserved. I think they were one of the teams that applied themselves the right way. They did what was needed to get to that milestone, and congratulations to France and the French people.
What did this World Cup tournament show football as and did for football?
I think what it did is it showed the world that every team is now well prepared. I think it showed the composition that gone are the days when you could have used the number 10 to probably wait to get on the ball and things like that. And now you can see the game has become more team-oriented in terms of off-the-ball commitment. I think everyone is asked now to do a job defensively. And the transition now into attack has been that quick now that in the blink of an eye, the ball is in the back of the net. So I think the game is revolutionized again and going to another level. But I'm almost certain that come the next World Cup, there's going to be something totally different.
So this French team was quite a young team. Did that surprise you in the sense that so many of these young players were able to achieve football's greatest prize?
I wouldn't say surprise, because I think they're all capable. It's some talented young players we're talking about. We're not just talking about young players in general. But I think looking back, if you look at what they did in the Euros, it was the same group that they allowed to play in the Euros and get the experience. So by the time they got to the World Cup, they might have been young in age, but I think they all had a know-how and experience of how to try and win a tournament.
Do you think this is the generation that could possibly go on to win another World Cup and maybe another World Cup?
Well, that is predicted. Because why? Because of the age. But I'm almost certain that within the next period and within the next 4 years that there's going to be a lot of changes in the football game. And whether or not they're going to be able to compete, I mean, everybody knows how difficult it is to defend a World Cup title. So are they going to be capable? Would they then have what it takes to do it? It'll be interesting to see.
There were other teams like Iran, like Russia, that Croatia played very well to get to the final. These teams really made a name for themselves at the World Cup.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of the preparation. The preparation for all the teams is more or less on the same field. So what you're looking at now is teams are going into the games much more prepared, totally not going to get caught by surprise in a lot of situations. And if you look, I don't think you saw too many creative goals, because the preparations are that well known in terms of the modern technology with the use of match analysis, etc. That is very difficult now to surprise teams. So what you find is happening now is a lot of individual quality is coming to pass, where an individual player would do something special to try and win a game.
Does World Cup still retain its essence?
I think without a shadow of a doubt. I think it's one of the only major sporting events that you literally have the whole world paying attention to, and I think that will never change. All these other tournaments, the Champions League, etc., I think when you look at it in general, is mainly the final captivates the world's attention. I think the footballing people pay attention to the group stage, the preliminaries, but the final then captivates the attention of the global market. But I think when you look at the World Cup, from the word get-go in the draw to the first game to the last game, I think it captures the world immediately. So I think the World Cup would always be the pinnacle in footballing terms.
So every time the World Cup comes around and we're not in it, it begs the question, when next after 2006 will we be good enough to qualify for football's greatest showpiece? We've seen some positive performances, much tougher friendly internationals, but is this project taking us to Qatar 2022? Looking on, where is that project right now?
I think the project is at that stage now where we're going into a major part of the process. In regards to in 6 months' time, we're going to be competing in the Gold Cup. So it'll give us a very good indication of where we were this year in qualifying for the World Cup, so where we are in a tournament phase. I think now we've managed to put together a pool of players that they all know what we're trying to do. They all have the expectations. They all know what I expect of them. I think the players has been absolutely incredible throughout the year, because it's been difficult for them in a lot of situations, and they've managed to come out and represent Trinidad and Tobago in a very positive manner. So, I can only commend the players for the effort they've put in, and hopefully we can find a solution to make sure that that continues.
What have you made of your 2 years at the helm of Trinidad and Tobago football?
Well, the first thing is I've enjoyed the challenge, because when I came here I knew it was going to be a challenge, so I've enjoyed that challenge. It's been very difficult in terms of trying to put together a program, because I think it's no secret the financial difficulties that we find ourselves in. But we've managed to find ways right? To be creative, to try to get games of decent quality, which we've managed to do this year. Obviously, we didn't play the amount of games, but then I think what we had to take into consideration is for some of the games, the distance we travel, it only allowed us to play one game and not two. I think it's important that people understand when it's an international friendly, you're only allowed to have the players 48 hours before the game. So when you take that into consideration and you travel to Thailand or Iran, I don't think there's room to get 2 games in there. So we looked at the quality compared to the quantity, and we had to take that into consideration. So again, it's been a positive year in terms of the quality of the games we had. It's been a positive year in terms of the commitment that the players have shown, and I can only, give them high praises for that, because as I said, it's been very difficult for them with these journeys and things that has been happening. But they've managed to come out and they've applied themselves in the right way.
You've gone to Europe, you've gone to the Middle East this year, you've taken us to places that we haven't gone before, and especially those tougher friendly internationals. So it's not just the Caribbean region or South American region, but we've gone beyond our borders and beyond the West. What do you make of our year against those international friendlies? You can't really measure the Gold Cup. We automatically qualified for the Gold Cup, so that was a straight passage through. But when it came to the friendlies, how much did that tell you of our progression in 2018?
What I saw was, for example, if you go back to where we started with Guadeloupe and Martinique. And against Guadeloupe and Martinique, we got the result. We showed at the moment in the game that we were superior to them. So obviously we go in that way up the ladder. We then started to go on to the Thailands and the Iran, the UAEs, etc. And because of the fact that we played 3 competitive teams at that level, which was the UAE, Thailand, and Iran, over these 3 months, I think it gave us that bit of consistency in our performances in terms of competing against them. Obviously, against Thailand and Iran, we didn't get the correct result. But when you look back in the Iran game in particular, the last 15 minutes of the game, the way we finished the game a lot stronger than Iran. And when you look at what Iran did in the World Cup, looking at the game being there on the touchline, they were a very, very good team. And we managed to push them back home in their territory to try and get a result. And that's good credit to the boys, because I think the boys started to grow in confidence. And for me, I wish we had another 2 windows on the back of that, because it showed we were just about getting, and that's what we need. We need to be able to compete consistently at this level.
It's not all about, in this project, in this process, it's not all about results, isn't it?
Results is fundamental to football, to a coach, to players. Because if you're getting good results and positive results, it helps you to progress in the process that we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to assess the performance after the result at this stage. Of course, we want to win games. I don't enjoy getting beaten any game, but we need to take into consideration that we know what we're working on. We know what our targets are. And as long as we stick towards the target, then I think it gives us a chance. We went into the Iran game and we were short of 6 players probably. We had no Kevon George, no Levi Garcia, no Neville Hackshaw, so we were still short. We had players that played in the USL and they were finished 2 weeks prior to the game against Iran. And I can tell you now that if you take a foot off the pedal in football for 2 days, it does show in the end. So it was difficult for the boys, but they managed to go and compete in conditions that I was very surprised of myself, because I didn't expect Iran to be as cool as it was.
Cold, yeah.
But the boys stood up. They represented the country well again. I think they did good justice to the flag, and I was pleased with them.
So the head coach seems pretty happy with the small strides being made. But his headache may be where he's getting his players from. Coming up after the break, W Connection wins the 2018 TT Pro League, but the league almost was brought to its knees. Dennis Lawrence on domestic football when we return.
Although you have done it over and over through the years, but it's always special, at that moment in time.
It really isn't an easy job for Dennis Lawrence, especially when The pool of players he has to choose from is so small, and then the pool itself almost evaporates. That's right, the TT Pro League almost didn't happen this year. But it did, and it was an exciting end as well. It went all the way down to the final day when W Connection took the title. But Lawrence has a problem on his hands. How does he use, or how can he use things like the Super League and Pro League to get players for his national program? Dennis, the pool in which you pick from is the TNT Professional League. You've also dipped your hands into the Super League. The Pro League almost didn't come off this year. At one point, it was questioned whether there would even be a Pro League. W Connection eventually won it, but are you concerned that you don't have a strong pool to pick from?
I'm concerned because I don't believe that we play enough football. As much as I appreciate what the Pro League is doing, and I know they're trying the best, I tip my hats off to every owner, because I think they're all getting involved in a business that they probably know they're not going to make any money back in return, but because for the love of the game, they still continue to get involved in it. But I do believe to compete at the top level, you cannot play 4 months of football and 5 months of football. You look at the top leagues globally, they play for almost 11 months, 10 and a half months, because you have to play at a certain level consistently. So if you work it out and you play for 4 months, that means you're off for 8 months. So you're talking about the length of time you're playing to the length of time you're inactive. It's difficult to catch up. So we're trying, and I'm working with the Pro League. They're trying to work with me in terms of, can we play a bit longer? So it is a bit of a concern, because then what it does is it doesn't help the local players, because to protect Trinidad and Tobago football and myself, we can't continue to keep trying to put together camps and see how much. I mean, you just look back to this year, Ryan, and some of the local players, the first game after the end of last season was an international friendly against Panama. That's difficult. And I feel sorry for the players, but it's something that we need to try and work on as a body, as a footballing association and a Pro League, to try and see how we can improve this.
You must take heart, though. The season was 4 months, but it went down to the wire. It went down to the last day. W Connection kind of nicked it from Central FC and Police FC. So the competition is there, certainly.
Yeah, the competition is definitely there. And that's why, if it was a longer league, it would have been even better, because that competition would have been sustained for not just a 4-month period. It would have been sustained for at least 8 months. So then when a player now is asked to come into an international game, he's already there at that level. So that's what I'm talking about consistency and trying to maintain this competitive thing that you're talking about for a longer period of time.
So unlike previous coaches, you've been brave enough to dip your hand into the Super League, look at Super League players, and potentially say, well, I'm looking at you, and you have potentially, you could be on the Trinidad and Tobago team. Not just because you're playing Super League means you won't get picked. What do you make of the Super League?
What I've found is it is very difficult for the Super League players. Why? Majority of the team, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but they train twice a week and they play a game on a weekend. And when you go and you ask them to go and compete against a professional footballer, that football is his life. He eats it, sleeps, his nutrition is right, his diet is right, everything. It becomes difficult. And I tried to say this to people before. When we took the boy Kevin Clark and we took him to Ecuador, one of my disappointments was people never went to him to ask him what was his experience. Because I had the conversation with him at the end of it.
They came to you.
They came to me to ask me. They should have asked him. And when I spoke to the player, the first thing he said to me was how difficult he found the transition from Super League to international football. And we're talking about the training leading into the Ecuador game. He found it difficult in the training sessions because he was now being asked to train every day at a certain intensity to then go and perform. So we took the chance, because what was important to me was I needed to find out whether or not a Super League player would be able to play at the international level. And the best way to find out was to use an international friendly, what is there for. Because an international friendly, in my opinion, is to work on something. And if you think about the result, then you don't take the chance because you lose focus on what you're trying to do. So we got to the Ecuador game, and the gentleman almost said to me, like, he said, look, coach, after 15 minutes, I honestly could have come off the football pitch. I found it that difficult. But because of my desire and my determination to do well and represent Trinidad and Tobago, I didn't ask to come off. But he said I found it extremely difficult.
Wow. You must take heart in intercol football. College football in Trinidad and Tobago is probably where we want the professional and super leagues to be at, isn't it? Intercol tournament, do you still enjoy that as much as when you used to play it?
Yeah, I think the secondary schools football is going to always be part of our history in Trinidad and Tobago football. I mean, a lot of our previous and probably present secondary schools footballers too known to represent Trinidad and Tobago well. You had players like Dwight, you're coming straight out of the intercol and the secondary schools football into representing Trinidad and Tobago. So it obviously has an integral part to play in what we're trying to do, and I do enjoy. What I enjoy about it the most is I enjoy the passion by the players. I enjoy seeing the parents, the families and the friends go out to support these younger guys to try and propel the footballing career. What sometimes my concern is, at times, is because I'm so focused on development, I'm always a bit concerned, are we pushing winning over development? And that sometimes is a bit of a worry for me, because I know from my experience, when I had the opportunity to play in the schools football, which I didn't really get much of, the thought process wasn't about development, it was about winning. So I played 12 minutes in the secondary schools football league, and I was actually told by the coach at the time that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't going to make it in football. And when I look back at that, how wrong was that for a coach saying to me at secondary schools football league that you're not going to make it in football? And that's what I'm talking about. I'm just hoping that development always remains the thought in the coach's mind, and it's not just about winning.
Naparima College, treble, South Zone champions, Intercol champions, league champions. When you look at that team, what do you make of that team?
I think they're guided by a very good coach. The coach knows exactly what he wants to accomplish, what he wants to achieve, and I think in my conversations with him, I can see the direction he's trying to go. Because as much as he is on about winning, he understands that development has to play a part in it. And he's took a brave stance, and I think a lot of the players that come up from the Naparima actually go into the Pro League club that he works with. So he's given them a pathway, and I give him huge credit for that.
Is it strong enough to one day feed our national team? That's the idea, isn't it?
The idea is, yes, you would like it to be strong enough to be able to feed our national program. If I was going to sit here and be bluntly honest with my opinion, I think we're probably strong enough to feed our junior national teams. I'm not sure about the senior national team, because sometimes when I look at too many games, for example, one of the things I look at is the amount of transition and the amount of turnovers in the football game, and it is a bit of a concern for me. So I think to take a player straight out of the secondary schools league and say, right, you're ready to go and play at the senior men's international level, I think maybe I might question that a bit.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for your analysis. On a much sadder note, football lost one of its local sons earlier this month. Former TNT footballer and coach Michael McComey passed away at 46 years. He was battling what was described as an aggressive brain tumor. The good friends we have and the good friends we've lost, Bob Marley and the Wailers. You're watching The Morning Shot, the final delivery of The Morning Shot on CMC3. I'm Ryan Bechu. When we come back, Michelle Liai answers her critics on and off the track. The Commonwealth Games gold medalist headlines the year in athletics. Next.
History is made. Michelle Liai takes the gold medal. Away in the 100-metre final, Michelle A.E. gets away to a very good start. The challenge, though, comes in the inside lane coming from Khalifa St. Fort, but it will be, in fact, the athlete from Trinidad and Tobago. History is made.
No World Championships this year, no Olympics, so was there really a year in athletics? For athletes outside the Commonwealth, maybe not. For TNT athletes, though, the Commonwealth Games was the pinnacle of 2018, and it was on the Gold Coast in Australia. TNT's golden girl Michelle Liai created history. Jareem Richards also got a goal there. But Australia also showed us how cracks are opening in a race we once dominated, particularly the relay event. Running us through the year in athletics will be a relay champion himself, Mr. Edwin Skinner. Welcome to the Morning Shot for the final delivery.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for coming. 1964 Tokyo Olympics bronze. So you're a man of great integrity in the sport, and we begin with the Commonwealth Games. This really was, in a year where there's no World Championships, there's no Olympic Games, the Commonwealth Games is the big, real deal, isn't it?
That's correct. That's very correct. And it's the games that brings back a lot of bittersweet memories for me, personally. Oh, wow. Yes, but if we're going to talk about the Commonwealth Games for this year, in 2018, you're quite correct. We made history with Michelle Liai winning that gold medal. And of course, Jareem Richards in that controversial.
Controversial, very close.
Yes.
Overall, what did you make of those games? Because it was quite bittersweet in the sense that our relay team, which seems to have been doing very well up until this point, sort of struggled.
With the women, we did not, Michelle, for whatever reason, did not take part in the events, although we got to the finals. And of course, the men, I think the year before, beat
World
Championships, beat the US for the first time, which is a goal that we wanted to achieve in 1964. So that was very happy, that was very exciting. So, but it seems as if, I guess we can have to say we're in a period of transition. We do have enough time for the Olympics to get it right.
To get it back on track.
To get it back on track, because right now, you're quite correct, we have a few cracks in that we need to clean up as quickly as possible.
So the Commonwealth Games is a very important meet for Trinidad and Tobago athletes, traditionally as well, as you just said, historically as well. 2018, 2 more years to the Olympic Games, now less than 2 years, about 23 months if so much. Where are we at? Are we in a good place where we can get some medals after you've seen us at the Commonwealth Games?
Yes, we can get some medals again if the current crop of runners step up to the best of their ability and do what is required, providing there are no injuries. Of course, the women's team, they should still be, with Khalifa Ford and, of course, Michelle Liai and the other youngsters come into the fray. Yes, our men's 4x1, they are pretty experienced, but we need some new young blood coming there. We have seen some of it in the CAC games, which, as second tier, we did get a silver medal in those games with a completely new team, except for Kyle Jarrow. They had the Farina boys, twins, and one of the guy, I can't remember his name right now. But they do have to step up because this time they won was not a fantastic time.
Just before we move on to the next topic in athletics, let's just focus a little bit on Michelle Liai. 26 years, she won gold medal. Jareem Richards as well, won gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. How big a boost is this going to be for their careers heading into a World Championships next year and an Olympic Games the next year?
Definitely, it's a big boost because success tend to breed success. And they are now professional, well-seasoned athletes. In fact, they will be going into the Olympics very experienced. So that is what is so exciting. And the young ones that are coming up, they will be able to give them that support that's really needed at that level of the games.
Okay, so just before the Commonwealth Games, Edwin Skinner, there was a CAC Games just after, rather. And the CAC Games produced some very, very good results. Now, we did really well at the regional level. We struggled at the international level, so to speak, but we did really well when it came to the Caribbean and Central American Games.
There are 2 reasons for that. Those games at one time were top games for athletes, the world class, our best athletes in the Caribbean. But now, since the professional circuit has come in, we tend to have the second-tier athletes who are now coming up. And those are, if Jamaica, don't send your top athletes to those games, Bahamas. And almost the same for Trinidad and Tobago, because Michelle Liai, he did not go. And that gives the youngsters and those who are now coming up a chance for experience at that international level. And what is good, we did do quite well. Ruben Walters got the silver medal. Alina Brooks got a silver medal.
7 medals in total for track and field, right?
Yes.
Measuring that up against the Caribbean, and we're trying to, of course, be the best throughout the region, that's something you would accept?
No, we could have done a lot better still. Because when we could have done quite a lot better. But again, I think one of the problem lies is our Carifta performances. You know, at the Carifta Games, we won 17 medals. The year before, we won, I believe, 22 medals. When we were producing top athletes at the Carifta Games, we used to win as much as 40 medals.
Wow.
In fact, I love to do analysis, and I saw where we are on a declining trend.
So the graph just keeps going down.
We're on a declining trend, and I even did a sort of forecast, and if we continue that way, we will not have athletes to go up to the higher level, because it's there where the Caribbean, if you look at all our top world-class performance from the Caribbean, they all have done and run well at the Carifta Games.
World Indoor Championships was also a huge meet this year in terms of our track and field athletes. They went to Birmingham, England. We came back with just the one solitary bronze in the form of Dion Lendo in the 400 meters. World Indoor Championships, is that something that's taken seriously by athletes?
Part of I don't know if I should say seriously, but that's during the winter. And a lot of our top athletes are at universities, and that's universities. So that's a problem. We have to get time off, and probably they're not getting in shape and whatnot. And a number of the professional athletes are now in the pre-season, getting out ready for the outdoor season. So to say seriously, I don't think a lot of them have been ready or prepared to run at the World Indoor Championship. So it's not given that much attention as opposed to the teams in the north, which, you know, that's the winter time, and indoor running is very important to them. They see that as their pre-season and whatnot.
Look, going into 2019 now, we've seen how we've done throughout this year in terms of the 3 major meets, CAC, Commonwealth and World Indoor Championships. What would be your take as we head into a World Championships here? Of course, the World Championships is the biggest thing next year. It's heading to Qatar.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you agree with that, if you don't agree with that. You're a former athlete yourself, a former runner yourself. Qatar is extremely hot. Athletes aren't all that happy.
That's correct. Because although we are from a warm country, but you don't want it, you know, you're but you do not want it that hot, you know, it gets, so that's, what it will have to be done, of course, is acclimatization at an early stage, a camp, which I think the entries have been doing for the last few years, so that's extremely important. And I know the entries are setting the sites to have when they're having the championships in time to select the team so they can have a camp in time. So athletes preparing for that should see this as a stepping stone for the Olympics. And as I saying, if success breeds success. So you want to be ready for those world championships, because if you perform well there, it is going to give you that impetus and ready for the Olympics of 2020.
2018, Edwin Skinner, what do you make of it? How would you describe athletics in the year 2018? Because as I said at the top, for many outside athletes, it may have been a slow year, no world champs, no Olympics, but for TNT athletes, there were some very meaty meets that they could have competed in.
That's quite correct. I think 2018 was an opportunity for the upcoming athletes and those who are just below the professional ranks to show what, to show their potential and see how far they can go. And that was the opportunities they had at the CAC Games and, of course, the NACAC I think that's the North American and Central American Games that were held in Toronto. And we did see some encouraging things, but at the same time, overall, our performance was not as expected in previous years. So there's some course, I don't know what the word for concern, I don't think we should use that, but we should be aware that there's a lot of work to be done. And I trust that the athletes see where they are and they put, and to make whatever corrections for 2019 so they're ready for 2020.
That's sort of my next question, because what lessons do we take out of this year and take into next year?
I am not a member of the NTAs, but I believe that they will have to sit down and do a whole analysis of, of making, giving the athletes or creating that environment that the athletes will be able to perform at the best. That's extremely important. I think it's important that they have close communication, especially with the athletes abroad, to make sure they create that environment for the athletes to perform at the best. And of course, the athletes themselves, if we are professional, you better do what is required so you can perform at your best.
Edwin Skinner, always a pleasure to have you on the morning shot. Please come again. Thank you very much and have a happy new year.
It was a pleasure for me.
Thank you very much. So, in January, the year can seem like a marathon ahead. Then you get to December and you say, boy, that was one fast 100-meter dash. Coming up after the break, a defining moment in time for not only TNT gymnastics, but also Trinidad and Tobago sport. After 2 years, Tamar Williams takes down the TTGF. Next.
I hope that is a message to all federations in general about the effects that bias can have.
Oh, no. This case was never about money. We would have settled this case on the basis of a written apology, but they wouldn't give us one.
For many sports in 2018, their playing field was actually the courtroom. And in many ways, issues that seeped over from the last year and even years before that came to a conclusion. For instance, Azam Basarat claimed victory in the 2-year tuggle between the TNT Cricket Board and a cricketing fraction comprising former West Indies players Darren Ganga, Samuel Badri and Dinanath Ramnarine. Justice Jacqueline Wilson ruled in favor on November 17th that the block of 12 votes of the 49 majority was actually not an unfair advantage. And then the familiar family feud between the TNT Table Tennis Association and Dexter St. Louis and Rayan Chung came up once again. For almost every major event this year, CAC Games, Commonwealth Games, the decision was made in court. In January, they got an injunction. Then in March, the France-based duo once again won their case. But the sporting spotlight really was on Justice Frank Sipasad. He was the judge that would decide whether Tamar Williams was unfairly treated 2 years ago in being removed from the Olympic test event. On November 26th, Justice Sipasad ruled that the Federation acted unfairly after withdrawing her from representing TNT at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. Her compensation package included $200,000 in damages, $50,000 on account of loss of opportunity to earn promotional income, as well as $150,000 in exemplary charges. Williams initially sued for $11.2 million.
I hope that is a message to all federations in general about the effects that bias can have, not just on the athletes, but on the sport itself. So I hope it speaks for all sports and all federations.
And if it's not controversy in the court, it's chaos in the cabinet. Former Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs Daryl Smith entered 2018 embroiled in the extremities of both personal and professional problems. It only got worse for him as the year began. His personal life became public, which led to his professional life crumbling around him. Nothing in the end could save him from the fate he seemed destined for from day one. On April 9th, there was a major cabinet reshuffle and he was reassigned by the Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Present Minister Shamfa Cudjoe took his spot as Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs. However, 24 hours later, Smith was fired from the cabinet on the whole. These are all moments you kind of hope sport doesn't have to go through. It's supposed to be fun, entertaining, and, well, get your thoughts off the day-to-day downers. And to be fair, many disciplines did manage to make us merry this year. The success of some sports is going to spill over into 2019. For starters, our netballers are headed to the World Cup in Liverpool next July. Rhonda John Davis and her team dominated the AFNA Americas Netball World Cup qualifiers in Barbados, even beating the hosts in the final to win the tournament. Both teams qualified, and similarly to how we welcome home our track, cricket and football heroes, we gave them a hero's homecoming.
We set to win this tournament and win convincingly, and we took each game one at a time, and so going into that final game was just a reminder that we need to win convincingly, and also we want to be able to be placed in a good group at the World Cup, so it was important that we win that game so that we would be placed in a better position. It clearly showed that we're on the right path, but to be able to play at the world stage, we have to multiply that times about 15.
Now, TNT rower Felice Aisha Chow also secured her place at next year's Pan American Games in Peru over the course of a series of races at the qualification regatta in Brazil. That's in November. Chow was able to progress to the A final along with USA, Canada, Bermuda and Argentina. All of the countries qualified to the grand final to also earn automatic entries to the Pan Am Games. Chow would go on to win bronze medal at that event.
And so with 500 meters to go, I really took up the pressure to open up that window to close any chance of losing that third spot. And that was it. That was bronze. So I'm really happy with how I did. I've been making some changes to my training recently, and they're now starting to pay off, and I expect that to continue. So I think I'll be even faster next year.
So there's a lot to look forward to next year in many different disciplines. However, one particular person we're always proud of on The Morning Shot is Dylan Carter. Not only is he a close friend of the show, but he keeps in touch with us wherever he is, and we really appreciate that. He had a quite phenomenal year in the pool earlier this month. He dipped to history at the World Championships in China, setting a new national record en route to the 50-meter butterfly bronze in Hangzhou. It's just the second medal ever for TNT at a short course World Championships. George Bovell was the only other medalist. He also made history earlier this year in April as well. That is at the Commonwealth Games, winning silver medal in the same event. He was actually on The Morning Shot less than an hour after his silver medal success. Let's relive part of that moment. A silver in the Commonwealth Games, what does that mean to you?
It's huge. You know, it's my first major international medal at a senior level, so that's a door, you know, a wall kind of broken down for me in my career. It's also my first ever swim meet as a pro athlete. I just finished up my NCAA eligibility, so it started off with a major international medal. You know, it's a great way to start on my debut.
What an absolutely wonderful year for Dylan Carter. Congratulations to him. Okay, so all of this is fantastic, but it's really all Trini, isn't it? What was sport on the island of Tobago like over the past year? Is the silence seemingly dormancy? We've tried our best to keep in touch with Tobago. Our producer launched a segment called A Shot of Tobago this year. But we want to dig a little bit deeper and ask some questions that we feel need answering.
Sometimes the administrators go ahead with plans that they have without consulting coaches, and you know, coaches are the ones who work on the ground with the athletes, and they are the ones who will be able to know exactly what could move forward sport in the country. And sometimes coaches are not consulted, and you know, well, that happened a lot this year. We were not consulted with most of the things that happening in Tobago, and that helped to kind of cause a little problem with moving forward in the way we wanted to.
I think the dry dock system need to be fixed, and we need to have a training area where all athletes will come and train equally, you know, because some of the elite athletes training in the elite gym, but yet you have other athletes to replace the elite athletes when they get older or when they get injured. So you don't have that in Tobago, and I think they really need to put something in place.
One of the problems we have in Tobago is a proper gym for athletes. You don't really have that. The stadium have the ideal space for that, and you know, normally you train on the track and then you come in and you lift, right? But we don't have a situation like that. So I'm hoping that in 2019 that the stadium will be up and running and we have a proper gym, because I think we have so much talent that we need to really have the best facility. The field event facility is needed in Tobago right now because we train at Shaw Park, and Shaw Park is congested. We have like about 4 clubs training in Shaw Park, and the space for throwing is very limited, very, very limited. So when athletes throwing, sometimes people passing on the track, and it's a kind of, you know, it's an accident zone. So we hoping that something could be done about that. If we have another or a temporary facility where we could do the throws and stuff like that. We have a lot of people that talented that playing the wrong sport. As a coach, you're supposed to have a clinical eye, and I see some people playing football, cricket, different sport. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't play football or cricket, but sometimes when you look at people's body type, you know that this person is more suitable for maybe shot put or discus or sprints or something like that. And sometimes you talk to the athlete, you talk to the parents, but you don't get the kind of support. You don't get the kind of support. So sometimes the athlete playing football or whatever and they never make a national team. And sometimes some people transfer to athletics. And then you see they make national team, they make character team, they medal, things like that. So sometimes it's good for them to experiment. So they could play the cricket and football, but at least come and try track and field, and then you will see which area you should really fit in.
Well, we do hope things get better in Tobago for 2019. It was a really rough ride for the island this year. Speaking about rough ride, coming up, cycling endures a nightmare year on the road, but on the track, TNT's cyclists find success. The raucous year of riding when the final delivery returns next.
Innocent young man cyclist killed while exercising.
Most times when cycling hits the front pages of the daily newspapers, it's not really for good news, is it? And despite there being a lot of good news in local cycling this year, the sport was actually marred by mayhem on the nation's roads. On the morning of Saturday, November 10th, renowned chef Joe Brown along with BPTT manager Joanna Banks were killed when a car plowed into a group of 14 cyclists along the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway. Then, less than a month later, Aaron Thomas from the Madonna Wheelers Club in Arima was killed in a hit-and-run accident. In a video posted to a Facebook page, a fellow rider said the driver swerved off the road, knocked him down, and then drove off. A soldier was later held. With the help of former TNT cyclist Roger Gibbon, whose brother was also actually killed riding along the highway some 50 years ago, we were able to get a deeper perspective on the morning shot as to why these things keep happening even 50 years on.
My message, a main message, is to try to get across to the motoring public to be extremely cautious when they see cyclists on the road. Be tolerant. Yes, you may get held up behind a bunch of cyclists, but you're going to get past them in a little bit of time. Bear with them. They have rights to the road also.
We're joined by cycling analyst Gary Acosta to analyze this year in cycling, and we had a really good end to the year, Gary, at the UCI World Cup, a top 8 finish.
Well, at the UCI World Cup in Berlin and London, the guys were competing against the world's best while they were at their best. So a top 8 performance is extremely credible. We have to remember that this team has only been together about a year now, and they are being competitive on the world stage, 44 seconds and 43 seconds team sprint events, team sprint times consistently. That shows huge growth within a year's time. So I have no qualms and no issues with the performance of the team thus far, and it could only see getting better from here.
Well, before that, Gary, the Pan American Track Cycling Championships also bore very good fruit for Trinidad and Tobago, and it also showed us a glimpse of the future of TNT cycling in Nicholas Paul.
Well, the Pan American Track Cycling Championships, those 3 medals were our best performance, or one of our best performances in recent times. Nicholas Paul clocked the second fastest time ever in history of 9.375 in the flying 200 meters. Our team sprint broke the national record on 3 occasions and also broke the Pan American record using 4 guys, so which showed the depth with Jacine Phillip, Nicholas Paul, Kwesi Brown, and Karen Bramble. As well as, we had credible performances from Alexi Costa and as well Akil Campbell in the endurance events. And we also can't forget young Jabari Whiteman, just as a junior cyclist, breaking the national record, setting a time of 1:01 in the 1 kilometer time trial and finishing actually 7th overall in the Pan American regions against the seniors. So the Pan American Championships was just the first qualifier for the UCI World Cup. The Pan American Track Cycling Championships was the first qualifier for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. And it's clearly showing that we are reaping the benefits of our work, and we are becoming dominant in the Pan American region.
Well, we did extremely well at the CAC Games. How good was that performance, and how good a measuring stick is that?
Definitely, we have become one of the most dominant forces in the Caribbean and Central America. Our 9 medals at the CAC Games was our highest medal count for cycling at the CAC Games, and actually was the second highest sporting discipline for Trinidad and Tobago, just behind athletics. Our 9 medals, especially those coming from Tennille Campbell, those 4 medals, the first female cyclist to ever medal at a CAC Games, winning 3 bronze medals and a gold medal for Trinidad and Tobago, is quite amazing. It showed that we had depth in both the endurance and the sprint side, and we're going to continue to grow and become even more dominant in the Central American and the Caribbean region.
All in all, Gary, how would you summarize 2018 in cycling?
A bumper year. Definitely very successful year, starting from the UCI World Cup in Belarus, where we had top 8 finishes there, moving into Commonwealth Games in Brisbane, where we had credible performances, and the team again was the team was continuing to grow, and we really saw the team starting to spark at their camp in Trexelton in USA, where Nicholas Paul won the prestigious Cairn Cup, first time a Trinidadian cyclist winning the Cairn Cup since Gene Salmon in 1992. And that just translated into the CAC Games, where we just had a phenomenal performance with 9 medals, into the Pan American Championships in September. We also had young Enrique de Comon getting gold at the Junior Caribbean Road Championships, and Alexi Costa winning double gold for Trinidad and Tobago in the Women's Caribbean Road Championships in both the road time trial and the road race. And we just capped it off with a really solid performance at the UCI World Cups in Berlin and London, and again setting the stage for a really exciting 2019 for cycling.
Thank you very much, Gary. A truly tremendous year on the track, but on the road, a ridiculously reckless year by some drivers. We hope and pray that this does not happen in 2019. You're watching The Morning Shot, the final delivery on CNC3. When we come back, the final judgment on 2018, I'll tell you where our main problems lie. Before we say goodbye, the final judgment is next. By any stretch of the imagination, it hasn't been a slow or silent year for TNT in sport. In covering sport for the past year, at times it's been terrific and then other times terrible. I'll explain. It's the worst-kept secret that Trinidad and Tobago sports has a problem, or many problems. The administration of sporting disciplines is a huge problem. And the bigger problem to that is they don't even know that they are the problem. They don't even think they are the problem. Like our politics, present administrations keep blaming past presidents and past executives for current problems. Here's another huge issue. Whenever the media does its job, whenever the media digs into a story, ravels through the rubble, criticism is seen as a personal attack. The fact is, sports have not lived up to our highest hopes. Administrations have shown bias and ineptitude. The preparation or lack thereof for international competitions fall down because of late planning. For another year, there is too much reliance on government, at which last minute, for us to bring last minute sponsorship, for us to bring last minute funding, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Some of the most popular sports in this country continue to struggle for sponsorship. It's become an embarrassment and continues to be an embarrassment for our elite athletes. Now, I really wanted to end on a positive note, but I just couldn't find the words after this year in sport here in TNT. But in doing an interview with Olympic Committee President Brian Lewis, I thought Brian Lewis's ending statement had an ounce of the reality we are in as a sporting nation, but also an optimistic outlook for 2019. He'll take us to the end. You're a wonderful audience, TNT. I enjoy spending Friday mornings with you, and I wish you a happy and healthy 2019. If you have those two things, everything else will fall into place. Happy New Year.
I really feel that 2019 is going to be a real great year for sport in Trinidad and Tobago. I think that as a people and as a country, we thrive under pressure and adversity. It brings out our innovativeness and creativity. It brings out our resilience. I'm not one of those who believe that we are lazy, entitled people. I believe that we are very industrious, hardworking people, as symbolized by our athletes and how hard they work to represent Trinidad and Tobago in a positive way on the world stage. So I'm very positive about 2019 and the future. I think that we have a tremendous crop of young athletes across sports, the many sports coming up. I think what just has to happen is that the sports administrators need to stop focusing on themselves and their what I call petty battles, and focus on what is really important, which is making a positive difference to the youth and young people of Trinidad and Tobago and the athletes, and doing what is in the best interest of sport and the country on a whole.